Welcome, chosen ones. When the devil can't touch your destiny, he tries to touch your reputation. But even whispers die in the presence of truth. Chosen ones, let's pause right here because you know something strange is happening. They used to chatter about you like parrots in a jungle. But suddenly the noise stopped, and not because they found peace or maturity. No, they stopped because every time your name enters their mouth, reality seems to slap them with consequences. That's not paranoia, it's a fact. Studies in psychology show that people who spend energy on slander often live in constant fear of exposure, because deep down they know the lie they're feeding can't survive in daylight. That's exactly where you stand now. It's your time. The energy has shifted. The stage is yours. And what once was casual gossip now feels like self-sabotage to them. They can't afford to speak too loudly behind your back, because in this season, it's not just you who's listening. It's God, it's karma, and sometimes even the people they're gossiping to are secretly rooting for you. And let's be honest, some of them are so spooked they look like kids sneaking cookies from the jar, checking over their shoulders mid-whisper, because deep down they know the joke has flipped. You're not the one under scrutiny anymore, they are. So buckle up, because in this message, we're going to peel back the layers and expose why they're mad, why they're scared, and why even their shadows won't dare speak your name too loud. Now, number one, they learned that gossip against you becomes evidence against them. That's the part they didn't calculate. When they first opened their mouths to throw dirt on your name, they thought the lies would bury you. They assumed people would take their word as truth because back then, you didn't defend yourself. You didn't chase after every rumor. You didn't explain yourself to every ear, and you didn't waste your energy fighting shadows. That silence they mistook for weakness became the very trap they fell into. Because while they were busy manufacturing stories, life was busy writing your evidence. Here's the raw truth. Lies expire, but results don't. They can't unlive the fact that you survived every scheme, every setup, every smear. They can't erase the growth people see in you. They can't argue against the undeniable shift that proves the hand of God is on your life. That's why their gossip has backfired. It doesn't line up with reality anymore. Every time they speak ill of you, it only highlights the gap between the story they told and the reality others can clearly see. And that gap exposes them, not you. Now they're trapped in their own words. They built a case against you, but the evidence was never yours to carry. It was theirs. People are remembering what they said, and then they're looking at who you are today. And that comparison doesn't make you look guilty. It makes them look envious, petty, and unreliable. They know it. That's why their tongues are heavy now. They're scared to even whisper your name because the risk is too high. Every word they utter against you automatically becomes a confession about their own bitterness. It's almost poetic. The same mouths that once claimed power by speaking over you are now silenced by the weight of truth. They didn't realize that gossip is not neutral. It always leaves a stain. But this time the stain didn't land on you. It stuck to them. They're carrying the embarrassment, the exposure, and the shame of being revealed as liars. That's why they're scared. Not because you threatened them, not because you fought back, but because the truth defended you louder than they ever could. Their gossip became evidence. Their whispers became testimony. And their plots became proof that you were chosen all along. Number two, they used to speak about you like it was sport. Now their words feel heavy and measured, because your season made every syllable risky. Success changes social math. What used to boost them now exposes them. When you move into a visible rhythm of wins, people who once tossed insults now pause before they talk because each remark can be checked against the facts of your life. Words that once landed harmlessly now ricochet and reveal motives instead of truths. This heaviness isn't courteousness. It's calculation born of fear. They remember how their narratives failed to stick, how followers switched sides, how allies began to doubt. That memory reshapes speech. Instead of quick jabs, there are awkward pauses, watered-down versions, or awkward laughter attempting to dilute the sting. They might say something safe and forgettable just to avoid the risk of being called out. The energy shifts from boldness to self-preservation. There's also social accounting happening. People tally what was said before and weigh it against your present. When your life contradicts their accusations, their words don't land. They become liabilities. Talking becomes signing a record. The more visible your progress, the more obvious that record becomes. That's why they cough through sentences, repeat phrases, or choose neutral topics. Their mouths resist diving into the old habit because the old habit now costs them credibility. Another layer is the internal panic. They feel a small constant dread that someone will remember and quote them. They filter themselves not because they respect you, but because they fear becoming the antagonist in other people's retellings. It reduces low-level cruelty, but heightens melodrama behind closed doors. The gossip doesn't disappear. It mutates into private grumbling, coded comments, or passive-aggressive posts. Visible cruelty declines because exposure rises. Small circles protect themselves, while the wider room watches closely. Finally, your steady rise forces them to reevaluate power. Speech is a tool used to influence, to punish, or to bond. When your season strips that tool of impact, speaking becomes dangerous. Their mouths go quiet, not from enlightenment, but from a calculus that says, speaking up now multiplies consequences. The heaviness is a confession. They are aware they lost the leverage they once held. They are learning too late that influence based on tearing others down is fragile. Integrity backed by results always outlasts noise. Silence may fall from them, but your reputation keeps growing every day. Number 3, they're not afraid of you as a person. They're afraid of what happens to them when they mishandle you. That's the real reason. Their conversations about you have dried up. Once upon a time, they thought words were harmless, that tearing you down would make them look taller. But what they didn't calculate is that words carry energy, and every energy sent out has a place to land. They mocked. They slandered. They spread half-truths, and every time it circled back and touched their own lives in ways they never expected. That's why they tread lightly now. Their fear isn't about your reaction. Their fear is about divine repercussions. They have seen it in real time. The same people who tried to discredit you ended up losing credibility themselves. The ones who whispered behind your back were later caught in embarrassing scandals of their own. They've connected the dots even if they won't admit it out loud. Every strike against you became an unseen strike against them. It's not superstition, it's cause and effect. It's the principle of sowing and reaping unfolding in their faces. And because of this, their tongues feel like loaded weapons. They know firing shots at you now is like pulling the trigger on themselves. There's also the guilt factor. Many of them can't even look you in the eye because deep down they know what they've done. Guilt makes people paranoid. They wonder if others know what they said. They wonder if their lies were exposed already. They live with a quiet anxiety that the truth is bigger than their whispers, and that's what keeps them silent now. You didn't silence them. Consequences did. The irony is their silence is louder than their noise ever was, because when people who were once bold critics suddenly go quiet, everyone notices. That quiet exposes fear. It reveals that they've seen something undeniable. You're chosen. And this season is proof. Talking against you now isn't just risky. It's suicidal for their reputation, their peace and their stability. They've realized too late that the safest option is to keep your name out of their mouths. Not because they respect you, but because the weight of consequence has made them terrified of crossing you again. Their fear is not of your presence. It's of the penalty that always comes when chosen ones are mistreated, and that penalty is unavoidable. Number 4, they know your vindication is public, not private. That's a reality they can't swallow. For chosen ones, justice never sneaks in through a back door. It doesn't arrive quietly in whispers or behind closed walls. When your truth finally surfaces, it shows up with an audience and everyone gets a front row seat. They can't spin it, soften it, or redirect it, because the evidence of your endurance, growth, and integrity is out there for all to see. Every success you've quietly built, every injustice you've silently endured, every betrayal you survived becomes a spotlight that exposes them by default. This public vindication terrifies them because it doesn't just clear your name. It highlights their mistakes, misjudgments, and failures in real time. People who once listened to their gossip now see the contrast between what they said and the reality of your life. The lies they spread don't just evaporate. They become markers of their own poor judgment and envy. Every whisper they ever thought would go unnoticed is now potentially archived in the memories of those watching, proving that their intentions were shallow, petty, or malicious, because every comment carries the risk of reinforcing the narrative of their own wrongdoing. Unlike ordinary people, chosen ones have a way of turning their vindication into undeniable proof, a ripple effect that reaches far beyond immediate circles. Their fear isn't hypothetical, it's calculated. They can't control how quickly the truth spreads or how widely it's noticed. Every lie, every attempt to undermine you now has the potential to boomerang and land directly on them. The pressure of public exposure changes behavior. Their once bold words shrink into silence, awkwardness, and guarded conversation. Even in private, they second-guess themselves. They know that speaking against you no longer carries a strategic advantage. It only fuels the evidence that proves you were always right and they were wrong. In short, your vindication isn't just coming. It's coming loud, undeniable, and witnessed, and that knowledge keeps them quiet, nervous and painfully aware that they have no safe place to hide from the truth. Silence in their case is not respect. It's fear of being revealed. Every second they withhold their words confirms that they understand. Your victory will be public, and they will be publicly exposed for what they really are. Number 5, they realize the spiritual surveillance on you is real. That's why every word against you now feels dangerous. They know it's not just about whether you hear their gossip or whether someone else repeats it. They sense that every negative word carries weight beyond the physical world. There's a higher accountability at play, one they can't manipulate, hide from, or escape. The energy they release against you doesn't disappear. It's being recorded in ways they cannot erase. Every insult, every judgment, every attempt to diminish you is like leaving fingerprints in a system they cannot hack. They are afraid because they understand, consciously or unconsciously, that the universe keeps track. It's not superstition, it's pattern recognition. Every time someone has tried to harm a chosen one in history, the backlash has been undeniable. People who tried to steal from you, lie about you, or block your path often end up exposed, embarrassed, or caught in consequences that mirror their actions. They see that pattern repeating in real time and it terrifies them. It's a constant reminder that you are not operating in isolation and that unseen forces are aligned with your truth. It goes beyond just divine oversight. They fear the judgment of ancestors, the witnesses who see beyond what the eyes can detect. They know that your life carries a legacy they can't touch. Every negative attempt against you feels like it's bouncing off invisible walls, leaving marks that will resurface in ways they never intended. It creates a layer of pressure that prevents casual attacks or careless words. Talking behind your back is no longer safe because the spiritual consequences are not negotiable. They also sense that the universe itself responds to imbalance. Energy flows and karma executes itself with precision. When they throw negativity your way, it inevitably returns to them in some form. That's why their words are cautious, their voices quieter, their criticisms softer or non-existent. The fear isn't about you retaliating, it's about forces beyond them, correcting what they tried to distort. In essence, their fear is proof of your alignment. The spiritual surveillance is a constant reminder that you are protected, observed, and guided. Every whisper they release against you is silently logged, watched, and addressed by a system that doesn't sleep. That is why they hesitate, falter, and ultimately remain silent. They understand deep down that this is not a world where chosen ones can be undermined without consequence. Number 6, they already failed their silent campaign. Every whisper, every subtle jab, every attempt to manipulate perception was meant to weaken you quietly, but it didn't work. They counted on their gossip, their half-truths, and their insinuations to shape how people saw you. But life didn't cooperate. Instead of sinking you, their efforts only highlighted the gap between their narrative and reality. People started noticing the inconsistencies. Every attempt to smear you became evidence of their own bitterness and insecurity. Their influence, which once felt powerful, crumbled under the weight of facts. What's most dangerous for them is that this failure is permanent. The memory of their miscalculation follows them. Those around them remember the stories they tried to sell and then compare it to what actually happened. Every lie is like a bookmark in the story of their own failed manipulation. They can't take it back, and they can't hide it anymore. For every conversation, every social interaction is a reminder that their silent campaign didn't just fail, it backfired. This failure doesn't just affect their reputation, it affects their confidence. When someone realizes their influence is ineffective, hesitation becomes automatic. Words that used to flow freely now stick in their throats. They second-guess everything. They think twice before opening their mouths because the stakes are higher than ever. One careless remark could remind the world of the campaign they already botched. That awareness creates silence, not respect. Fear and self-preservation take over. Even worse for them, their failed campaign becomes proof of your resilience and your alignment. People see that no amount of whispering, plotting, or backdoor scheming could touch you. That clarity reflects poorly on them and reinforces your position. It's a silent scoreboard, where they are losing and you are winning and everyone can see it. In the end, their failed campaign is a warning they cannot ignore. It reminds them that the system they tried to manipulate doesn't bend to gossip. It reminds them that truth, patience, and endurance outweigh petty schemes. And it reminds them that talking behind your back now isn't just useless. It's exposing themselves further. Their failure has permanently shackled their voice. That's why, even when they try, the memory of their own defeat keeps them quiet, hesitant, and powerless against the rise of someone chosen. Number 7. They can't risk becoming the footnote in your story. Deep down, they understand that your rise is not temporary or accidental. It's inevitable. Everything you've endured, every challenge you've overcome, and every victory you've quietly built points toward a trajectory they cannot stop. And in their awareness of this, a terrifying realization hits them. Their actions, their gossip, their attempts to undermine you will not be remembered as clever or effective. Instead, their names will appear in the narrative of your life as minor antagonists, small obstacles you effortlessly overcame. This fear shapes their every move. They know that history doesn't glorify those who try to stop someone chosen. It records their failure. Their whispers, their schemes, and their manipulations become part of a cautionary tale that shows up every time someone studies your journey. Here's the person who tried to block the rise of the chosen and lost. History will quietly note that prospect paralyzes them. The idea of being remembered as insignificant, powerless, or foolish in the story of someone extraordinary is unbearable. The irony is brutal. They wanted relevance through opposition, but instead they face permanent obscurity framed as failure. Every attempt to interfere now feels dangerous because it can't just vanish. They are aware that every action against you contributes to the record of their own misjudgment. The people around them, whether aware or not, will connect the dots. Their names and efforts will not matter, except as examples of what happens when you try to halt destiny. Even in their social circles, this fear changes behavior. They hesitate before speaking, calculating whether a word against you could later be cited as proof of their short-sightedness. They know they can't rewrite the story you are authoring through your resilience, wisdom, and consistent victories. Every step you take forward magnifies their irrelevance, and the thought of becoming a footnote, small, powerless, and remembered only for failure, keeps them from acting. Ultimately, the weight of inevitability is what silences them. They see the arc of your life bending upward and realize that any opposition only frames them as a minor failed player in the grand narrative. The higher you rise, the smaller they become. And that realization, this stark awareness that their legacy is at stake, is why even their whispers have stopped, why their voices tremble, and why they no longer dare to stand in your way. Number 8, your glow makes their shade obvious. The energy you carry, the progress you've made, and the results you consistently produce highlight the pettiness of anyone trying to dim you. Every achievement, every step forward acts like a spotlight that illuminates the smallness of their envy. It's not that they're intimidated by confrontation or afraid of your reaction. They're afraid of exposure. They know that when people see the contrast between your rise and their negativity, it's clear who is living in truth and who is living in bitterness. That's why talking behind your back has become almost impossible. What once felt like harmless gossip now carries a risk they can't calculate. Every word they utter against you is weighed against the undeniable facts of your life, and the comparison doesn't favor them. Their shade, once disguised as humor, critique, or observation, now looks transparent, shallow, and frankly embarrassing. Others see the attempt to tear you down and recognize it for what it is, envy disguised as commentary. They also understand that people remember. Audiences notice patterns of criticism and contrast them with observers subconsciously compare the negativity to your achievements and integrity. That reflection magnifies their own insecurities and makes their words meaningless. Their petty attempts now serve as proof of their lack, rather than anything that could harm you. That's why silence becomes the safer option. Even within their own circles, their behavior shifts. They hesitate before commenting, censor themselves mid-sentence, or redirect conversations away from you entirely. There's a constant mental calculation. Will this comment make me look petty? Will it expose my bitterness? And more often than not, the answer forces them to stay quiet. The very presence of your glow, your confidence, your results, your unshakable path, forces them into restraint they never had before. In short, your growth doesn't just move you forward. It unmasks those who try to block you with negativity. It exposes their envy, highlights their insecurities, and makes even casual shade look ridiculous. Their fear isn't about being caught in the act by you. It's about the inevitable comparison that makes their words meaningless. Your glow isn't just light. It's a mirror reflecting the pettiness of anyone who thought they could diminish it. Number 9. They don't trust each other enough to gossip safely. The group that once acted as a coordinated force against you is now fractured. Not because of anything you did directly, but because your rise and resilience have exposed their weaknesses. They know that every word, every whisper, every shared secret carries a risk. One careless comment, one repeated story, one casual brag could undo all of them at once. What used to be a unified front of schemers has become a cluster of anxious individuals constantly measuring each other, wondering who might crack first. Fear has replaced camaraderie. They look around and second-guess every alliance. They question whether someone else in the group is holding back a piece of information, or whether someone might inadvertently reveal what they tried to keep hidden. The tension is subtle but constant. It poisons conversations, fractures trust, and turns what was once a source of strength into a liability. Gossip requires confidence, coordination, and secrecy. Without those, every attempt to speak against you becomes a potential trap. Even casual interactions are now high stakes. They hesitate to repeat stories that once circulated freely because they know someone else in the circle might misstep. Every word becomes a calculation. If I say this, will it come back to me? If I share that, will it expose me as part of the plan? This anxiety eats away at their boldness. What once flowed effortlessly, mockery, slander, manipulation, now stutters and stalls. Silence creeps in because it is safer than risk. The irony is brutal. The same people who thought they were untouchable because they had each other now feel isolated and vulnerable, precisely because of their dependence on that group. Alliances that seem strong now feel like cages. They realize that their network can betray them as easily as it once amplified their attacks. In trying to take you down, they created a structure that cannot survive scrutiny. Ultimately, your presence has exposed more than just your own strength. It has revealed the cracks in theirs. Their inability to trust each other has dissolved their alliances and neutralized the very force they hoped would harm you. Every failed coordination, every hesitation, every suspicion makes it impossible for them to act freely. They can't risk a slip, and that fear keeps them silent. Their attempts to unite against you have collapsed under the weight of mistrust, leaving them powerless while you continue to rise. Number 10, they saw others collapse for crossing you. That one observation alone changes everything. They've watched people who tried to interfere, belittle, or undermine you unravel in ways that were impossible to ignore. It doesn't matter if the consequences were public or subtle. They witnessed the downfall, the loss of respect, the fractured relationships, the missed opportunities. One example is enough to plant fear, because it proves that interfering with a chosen one is never without a price. The fear they carry now is based on evidence, not imagination. They remember who lost credibility, who lost influence, who lost peace of mind after trying to manipulate your path. It sticks with them because human beings subconsciously track patterns. When someone sees a chain reaction of consequences following an attack, the mind associates crossing you with risk, embarrassment, and even potential ruin. That memory is like a warning sign flashing in their subconscious every time your name comes up in conversation. It doesn't matter that they think they are smarter or more careful than the ones who fell before them. Experience is a teacher, and they've learned from the mistakes of others. Their hesitation isn't respect for you. It's fear of repeating a story that already ended badly. Talking behind your back becomes a gamble they're unwilling to take. Every joke, every slight, every negative comment could align with the same forces that toppled the last person. And they know the audience. Friends, colleagues, or even strangers remember those outcomes too. One slip could immediately link them to the pattern of failure, exposing their ill intent and making them look foolish. The lesson is simple but brutal. Crossing a chosen one has consequences that extend beyond words. It's about peace lost, reputation damaged, and credibility destroyed. And now that they've seen the results firsthand, their lips tighten, their laughter hesitates, and their casual criticisms die before they leave their mouths. They think twice because they know what happens to those who underestimate your presence. Every fall they've witnessed acts like a warning shot. It reminds them that you are not ordinary, that your path is protected, and that anyone who challenges it risks becoming the next example. That's why silence has replaced chatter. The fear of witnessing their own collapse before they even start has paralyzed them completely. Number 11, they know you don't fight. You outlast. That's what terrifies them the most. Most people would have reacted, retaliated, or tried to prove themselves at every attack, but you didn't. You didn't engage in petty arguments. You didn't chase validation, and you didn't waste energy trying to convince anyone of your worth. You endured in silence. You persisted while others expected you to crumble. That endurance, that calm persistence, became more powerful than any confrontation could ever be. Every insult, every slight, every attempt to pull you down only proved your strength. Because instead of reacting, you let time reveal the truth. They saw that while they were scrambling to create chaos, you were steadily building stability, character, and momentum. Your growth wasn't loud, but it was unstoppable. That's what makes them anxious. The realization that they cannot touch you, no matter how much they scheme, because you are operating on a timeline they cannot interfere with. They've learned that fighting back is temporary, but surviving and thriving leaves permanent marks. When they throw shade or whisper lies, your life itself becomes the counter-argument. Your results, your calm, your progress, expose their intentions without you needing to lift a finger, and that makes their power over you null. They can't shame you, stop you, or intimidate you, because their weapons are ineffective against someone who simply refuses to fall. The fear they feel now is quiet but pervasive. They understand that confrontation only triggers reactions. But endurance is unassailable. You don't just defend yourself. You outlive every attack, and that endurance accumulates into a reputation that cannot be shaken. The longer you thrive while they flounder, the more obvious it becomes. You are untouchable. Your victories are not loud declarations. They are living proof of resilience. And each day you continue rising chips away at their confidence, credibility, and influence. That's why silence surrounds you. Not because they respect you, but because they know their tactics fail. You don't fight. You outlast. And in the eyes of those who tried to oppose you, that makes you untouchable, unbreakable, and ultimately unstoppable. Every whispered insult becomes irrelevant because your life is the proof that endurance beats aggression every single time. Number 12, your destiny cancels their permission. They once believed that by mocking you, judging you, or trying to control your path, they held influence over your life. They thought their opinions, their whispers, or their manipulations gave them a seat at the table of your future. But the truth is they never had a say. They were never on the voting panel, never consulted, and never authorized to approve or deny what was meant for you. Their attempts to interfere were never more than distractions, noise that life and destiny simply ignored. Now they see it. Every move they made to hold you back, every scheme designed to stop you, only illuminated how powerless they actually were. They realize that your path isn't subject to their approval, that the timing of your rise, the magnitude of your achievements, and the fulfillment of your purpose were never negotiable. You were always aligned with forces bigger than their opinions, bigger than their fear, and bigger than their petty interference. Their interference doesn't stall your progress. It highlights the futility of trying to control what was never theirs to control. This realization terrifies them because it shatters their sense of authority. For so long they operated under the illusion that words, exclusion, or judgment could shape reality. Now they understand that reality doesn't bend to gossip or envy. Life is proof. Destiny is no amount of scheming or manipulation could ever override what was written for you. Every attempt they made to influence your journey only reinforced the fact that they were spectators in a story they could never edit. And that knowledge changes everything. They can no longer speak freely against you because their influence is irrelevant. They can no longer pretend they have control because they've been proven powerless. Even their alliances and whispered strategies feel meaningless now, because destiny doesn't need permission. It executes itself. Your life moves forward regardless of their approval. Their judgments, criticism, and attempts to exclude you now fall flat, powerless against the inevitability of what is yours. Your rise, your achievements, and your fulfillment are independent of them. That's why they're silent. They know that destiny doesn't negotiate, doesn't consult, and certainly doesn't wait. They were never invited, and they were never meant to be. Your permission is self-given, and your path is unstoppable. And number 13, they fear the proof that you were always right. Every step you've taken, every obstacle you've overcome, every victory you've quietly achieved is a living testament to your foresight, your resilience, and your faith. What they once dismissed as luck, naivety, or exaggeration is now undeniable reality. Your life itself contradicts every lie they told, every insult they threw and every doubt they seeded. They know that speaking against you now doesn't just fail. It reinforces the truth of your vision and exposes their own misjudgment. This fear is crippling for them because it's public and permanent. Unlike their gossip, which could once shape perception in private corners, the proof of your success and survival is visible to everyone. Friends, colleagues, acquaintances, and even strangers can see the results of your endurance. Every achievement you accumulate, every challenge you turn into a stepping stone becomes a counter-argument they cannot dispute. And the more they try to speak, the more obvious it becomes that they were wrong all along. Embarrassment is a powerful silencer. They remember the times they underestimated you, the casual dismissals they made, and the assumptions they believed about your abilities. Now those moments of arrogance replay in their minds every time they consider opening their mouths. Talking against you doesn't hide their error, it broadcasts it. The more they attempt to discredit you, the more it highlights that they miscalculated your strength, your patience, and your purpose. Even subtle criticism feels dangerous. They know that every word can be matched against your reality, and each comparison exposes them further. Their past judgments are now evidence of their misreading of your potential. That awareness freezes them. Silence becomes safer than speaking, because it's the only way to avoid admitting explicitly or implicitly that you were right and they were wrong. In the end, their fear is a reflection of your unstoppable alignment with truth. The proof of your survival, rise, and resilience doesn't just defend you, it intimidates them. It forces them to confront their own errors and makes their envy, their gossip, and their judgment pointless. They remain quiet, because acknowledging the truth, even indirectly, would be to admit that you were always right, and that truth is unbearable for anyone who tried to stand against it. Number 14. They know time isn't on their side. It's on yours. They can feel it. Every delay, every tactic they try to slow you down, every plot to block your path has expired. The clock that once seemed to give them power has flipped, and now every second works in your favor. They see it in your growth, your momentum, and the way opportunities align with you effortlessly while their attempts to interfere fall flat. The timing is undeniable, and it terrifies them. This shift exposes their impotence. What they once believed would take years to accomplish, control over your trajectory, influence over perception, now disappears in the wake of your forward motion. They understand that time which they assumed would allow their plans to succeed has instead amplified your advantage. Their whispers, their schemes, their manipulations no longer have space to operate. Every moment you continue rising without interference proves that their power was temporary and their control was an illusion. The irony is sharp. The very delays and obstacles they hoped would weaken you now strengthen you. Your resilience against their interference accelerates your progress while highlighting their failure. They realize that speaking against you now doesn't stall your rise. It only frames them as desperate, petty, and ineffective. Every word intended to harm becomes evidence of their misjudgment and reinforces the inevitability of your ascent. Time has become a weapon against them, one they cannot reclaim. They know that the longer they wait, the more obvious your trajectory becomes and the more visible their failure grows. Every attempt to speak, to undermine, or to manipulate now carries a heavier cost. Their names, their words, and their intentions are being measured against the unstoppable flow of your life. And that measurement never lies. They remain quiet because they understand the truth. The hour belongs to you, not them. Every second they hesitate is proof of their dwindling influence. Every effort they make to interfere now only exposes their irrelevance. Time, which they once assumed was an ally, has shifted into your favor entirely. And that realization, the inescapable fact that your rise is inevitable, while their opportunity to act is gone, is what keeps them silent, anxious, and powerless before the unstoppable force of your destiny. Everything we've uncovered today reveals one undeniable truth. Your rise is unstoppable, and those who once tried to hinder you are now powerless. They whisper no longer, not because you demanded silence, but because your life has spoken louder than any argument. Every act of envy, every scheme, every attempt to hold you back has been exposed by your endurance, your results, and the unstoppable flow of your destiny. Their fear, their hesitation, their silence, it's proof of your alignment with something far greater than opinion, circumstance, or temporary obstacles. You don't just survive, you thrive. You don't just endure, you outlast. And every whisper turned against you has become a mirror reflecting their own misjudgments, their envy, and their failure. The evidence is everywhere. Your glow makes their shade obvious. Your resilience makes their schemes irrelevant. And your timing makes their efforts meaningless. Those who try to define your story are now footnotes in it, silent witnesses to the unstoppable reality you've created. This isn't luck, coincidence, or chance. It's the manifestation of your purpose. Every challenge you faced, every person who doubted or disrespected you, only amplified the inevitability of your rise. You are living proof that destiny doesn't require permission, and truth doesn't need defense. The world may have once underestimated you, but now it watches as your life becomes the standard others measure by. So take it in. The silence around you isn't peace, it's fear. The fear is theirs, not yours. And while they hesitate, calculate, or crumble in the face of your reality, you continue forward, untouchable, unshakable, and aligned. Your journey is not just a story, it's a testament. It's proof that chosen ones cannot be stopped, that time always works in favor of those destined to rise, and that the truth always reveals itself in ways that silence the noise forever. Own it, celebrate it, and keep moving. They're watching, trembling, and learning a lesson they will never forget. When it's your time, nothing, not gossip, not manipulation, not fear, can ever touch what is divinely yours. If this message spoke to you, make sure to subscribe to the channel so you never miss a powerful truth like this. Hit the like button if you feel the energy shifting in your favor, and drop a comment to share your story. Your experience could inspire someone else rising right now. Don't keep this to yourself. Share it with friends, family, or anyone who needs to hear that their time is coming. Remember, your rise is unstoppable, and together we witness, celebrate, and amplify the truth. God bless you.